Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Fashawn, and when you first had the idea that someone's substance abuse was affecting you, and what age that you felt that, and kind of what it was like?
Well, I was born in Fresno, California, a city that is really, it's probably like the premier city in California for like crystal meth addiction and stuff like that, and a lot of other chemical addictions, but specifically crystal meth. And when I was young, I would come home from school, from elementary school, and notice that, that a lot of my items were missing, like my Sega, my Nintendo, and even sometimes my bed, you know what I mean? And I would wonder, like, where would these things go? Like, I know they just didn't disappear in thin air. And then I'd go to my friend's house, in the hood, the neighborhood, and then I noticed my stuff at their houses, and then I just connected the dots. I'm like, looking at their mother and looking at mine and their parents, and that's when it hit me, like, yo, my mother's exchanging my personal things for chemicals and for drugs, and that's when it hit me. I was about maybe 7 years old, maybe, and and just that was the first time I felt shame, embarrassment, etc. That was like first time I ever remember being introduced to those emotions, But it all just came at me at once. My mother's an African American woman, and it had me at a very interesting year, 1988, because my father was in prison since, like, I didn't meet him until I was 15 years old, and I didn't know what problems he had. I don't know if he was alcoholic, or I just knew he was a gangster, and that's why he was in prison, That's all I knew. But my mother, on the other hand, she raised 3 kids, myself, the youngest, my brother, my sister, and I knew that was a lot to handle, period. I know the way that could, if you're not strong enough, it could cause you to do a lot of stuff. And but in the midst of that, it wasn't any less love for my mother or anything like that, but it was more of me trying to mend my own wounds that I wasn't even aware of at the time. That was caused by things that she was doing. It wasn't just crack and street drugs too. I think it was more so the pharmaceutical drugs that really
Prescription drugs.
Yeah, prescription drugs. The Seroquels and things like that, and Oxycontins and things of that nature. That's what really made a shift for me in my life. Because as a kid, you don't know what these things are, and if your parent isn't responsible, you could dive into things like that nature. I think one thing that really inspired me and propelled me to really go for what I'm going for now, it really wasn't what was going on with my mother, but it was after my father had resurfaced in my life. After I met him, I caught him digging in the trash one day, outside in my apartments that I was living in, and that's when I made the decision, like, I'm gonna be the opposite of that, the opposite of whatever he's done in his life. I'm gonna completely do the opposite, be there for my kid. I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna be persistent and work hard and do whatever I got to do to not end up like that. It wasn't more so my mother, it was influence. My mother actually gave me most of the tools that I use in my music, especially the wealth of the experiences. But as far as dealing with those things, how I dealt with it was through my music, and through my poetry, through my lyrics, because I didn't have a doctor to talk to about this at the time, so what was therapeutic for me was to write all these things that I was seeing and consuming with my eyes, and was to write it down and try to make sense of it. I really didn't have goals of being a rap star or nothing like that. I just needed an outlet.